everybody. Welcome to the Football 360 show. Happy Tuesday to you. A wet and wild, stormy Tuesday. I am JP Rock. He is Matt Bierman. Welcome to the Football 360 show. Coming at you live on X as well as YouTube. And, of course, the audio versions can be heard on Apple as well as Spotify and all things Football 360 show or at football360show.com. Matt, how you doing today?
Doing great. Just drying out a little bit here.
There you go. Doing well as well. Hopefully everybody's above water. I know there was some flooding going on and stuff like that. Did you get the alert on your phone? Did you get the emergency alert?
Yep.
I don't remember getting one of those before.
Yeah. I thought it was an Amber Alert, and I looked down. It was like flood alert.
It said, don't leave your house.
Yeah.
Don't leave your house. So stay dry and wherever you're at, just keep it locked here for the next hour. Lots of good football talk, and the last week's kind of been a blur for me, so I'm having to keep thinking about like where are we at?
Yeah.
Where are we at in the whole football thing? But we're actually only about 3.5 weeks out from college and high school football camp.
Yeah, it's happening fast. The college guys are rolling. Our NFL guys are going back.
Yeah,
today and tomorrow.
Yeah,
they'll be gone, and next thing you know, they get going a little bit. Their pace is a little bit faster. Obviously, they had 3 to 4 weeks off, depending on the team.
Yeah,
and then those guys are back. They're back at it again.
I was going to say it's the football preseason games they start kicking off, right?
Yeah. Well, it's different with them because their off seasons are very, very. I mean, they're professionals, obviously, so they can get into things real fast. And they're expected to, come in and be in shape, and they get right after it. So
yeah, I mean and that's what's so funny, and we've said it here a lot. But football is a year-round sport. You can't take a long time off. I mean, way back in the day, I think that they used to have like jobs in the off season. And we just play football during the season, go to camp, do whatever. But now, I mean, if you are not playing, if you're to take the off season off, you're done.
Yeah. Oh, I think I've told you this story before. Blaine Gabbert one time was in the facility during the off season, and one of the young rookies, one of our kids that we trained, was talking about what his plans were over those next couple weeks of vacations and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And he said, "You don't want to do that. That's a bad idea."
Yeah.
He's like, if you do that, you can just kiss it goodbye. He's like, you got to be ready. So take this time to prepare yourself, which I spent the morning yesterday with Corey Patterson, who's from Purdue, University of Purdue, and then Isaiah Williams. We went out to First Form. They did the tour and kind of went through some of the things that they're doing there, and their headquarters just world class. And both of them were really excited to be there, and I think it kind of blew them away. But one of the things we were talking about, and it's really kind of goes into like what we talk about day in and day out in our lives of what we do in football, but also on the show. When you're in high school, you're kind of on your own, right? And so you get there, you kind of got to figure things out. Your coaches have things for you to do, but you got to take care of your sleeping. You got to take care of your nutrition. You got to take care of like putting on body weight, losing body weight, putting it on. All those things you have to do. Obviously, you have to be prepared to play the game and have the skills, all those things that help you become a good player. But then you go to college, and if you're at a bigger program, a lot of that stuff is done for you. Like your schedule's set. Yeah, you're still on your own, but your nutrition's taken care of. They put some parameters around, especially during camp time, like when to be sleeping, when to get up, all that stuff. So that goes on. But then when you go to the NFL level, pro level, you're expected to kind of be back in that realm of do it on your own. You're a professional.
Yeah, you're an adult
now.
Yeah,
so you figure it out. So, but I think that's kind of interesting because you have the NFL guys and the high school guys are kind of caught in the same boat of like nutrition and what they should be doing. Yeah, you can get good advice, and guys that are making good money in the NFL have everybody and their brother telling them that they should use their elixir or whatever they have, or their program or their protocol. And unfortunately, like sometimes it doesn't work for those guys. So, and they have to be hypersensitive to that. So I do think it is kind of a unique parallel between high school and college, and then high school, to pro. Those guys are more similar as far as what's expected of them, what you have to do. So one of the things we were talking about is, and I think people would find this interesting, but you know, especially when you like watch Hard Knocks, you may see stuff like this. They talk about it, but for every pound you're over your ideal weight, so they give you a range. So if you're over or under, it's how much money do you think it costs as a fine, JP, on a weekly basis throughout the season?
In NFL,
NFL,
was it 10?
it's $800.
$800.
$800 a pound. So you know you're off 5 pounds. You know, it's a good little chunk of change,
Right.
and you know, and I don't know that they take being sick into account either. So you know, you could lose weight or you know gain weight or whatever it might be. So you know, you're a professional. So, but you know, a lot of those habits start when you're a young man, and so we do our best to talk about a lot of those things. We've been talking about nutrition. We put out a reel today about what we were talking about eye performance and sports training for eyes and things of that nature. But I think as young players, you have to be really cognizant of down line. If you really want to be that guy, like it's not just saying you want to be it. You start those behaviors and just to get on the field in college, a lot of those behaviors have to start when you're younger.
Yeah, most definitely. And you see the guys, and I know everybody loves to follow on social media and like to see the guys post about their offers or their commitments. And by the way, congratulations to Stephen Mites, which is where I'm going with this story. Just committed to Missouri State today. A year ago, Stephen was a guy who I was at the Eureka camp and saw him, and he was a lot leaner guy, and he wasn't as polished as he was. And I spoke with his father, and the dad didn't know that Stephen was a D1 guy, and I'm like, oh no, he's a D1 guy. It's up to him. And those were my exact words. I go, it's entirely up to him. But he has the tools, he has the size, he has the frame. He moves well. It's entirely up to him. And so he took that upon himself, him and his father, and just regular trainers, and built his body and improved his skills to the point to where he got D1 offers this offseason. And now he's committed to them. Congratulations. And last year when I saw him, what do you say he was? Because he was he coming in to train at elite at that point?
He was training, yeah.
So he was about what, 240 pounds?
Yeah, 240, maybe 250
250 maybe. So, right now, 6'5", 285, kept the ability to move, kept the athleticism, increased that, right? Increased his strength, and really improved his skills.
That line's going to be massive at Eureka this year.
Oh,
I mean, they got some big boys.
Yeah, and they are going to be really big. The skill stuff they're still working out, but they're huge.
Yeah, and you know what it is, but that's like most teams. Like you have the big strong linemen, and I was talking to a high school coach this morning about it. His thing was, hey, we always have a bunch of really good skill guys. I'm just kind of projecting what we're going to have coming up the ranks. Anybody 240 plus. Do we have anybody?
That's most high school teams.
Yeah, those guys are coveted. So,
they are,
yeah.
and Eureka has just an absolute luxury, because I remember at the contact camp of last month, I heard some kids say, "What are they feeding these kids? What do they got going on?"
Yeah, they've historically had a lot of big boys.
They really do.
Just must be, it's kind of like what they have out in their area, because they do. They typically have some of the bigger
and they have
linemen, and not just like. Because you'll see some teams that have let's just call them squattier, thicker linemen.
Mm-hmm. These are athletes.
These are like taller, lean, like Division I looking. Yeah, right.
You have Jack, you have Steven. They have a young defensive lineman, Noah McCollum.
Yep.
Who's about 6'4", 250 pounds.
His dad was a pretty good player.
A little bit, yeah. And I mean, just more size across the offensive and defensive lines. And so, but no, Stephen is exactly the person that you're talking about who did what was needed.
Yep.
Who bought into it. And that really is, a lot of guys will get offers and will post them on social media or this or that because they are good players or they are athletic.
Right.
But what separates them from the guys who are successful are the guys who build themselves like that and continue on with that in college, versus the guys who, and I know you see it a lot, who like right before they're going to go to college, they'll contact you, or they'll want to start training with someone, or they'll want to start working out.
Oh, kind of too late at that point. You got to really make sure
It's definitely a setback.
You're prepared, because it hits you faster. And, once you get there, like you have no idea. And then you're scrambling to learn the playbooks. You're scrambling to adjust to the speed of the game, and you're scrambling to just survive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, a lot of those kids just don't do a lot of things that really set them up. And one of the things that, it's interesting. You see a lot of, especially this time of year, and it's great because it's kind of old school. You'll see a bunch of kids go to the field, and they're they'll be at the trainer or two, and they're running routes or whatever it is. But the thing is like, if kids, let's just call it the way it is. That's a fun thing to do, right? That is a social, and it's fun, and you can get a video or two out of it. And but if someone's not there with a very watchful eye, and you're just doing it just to do it, I would argue that you're probably not improving a whole hell of a lot, because you're not doing a lot of things that are going to fit the system you're probably playing in. You're not running to the standard of routes that the game of 11-man football requires, which is what you're getting recruited to play. So,
correct. And putting out video ladder drills, that's not helping.
Well, no, it's not. And so,
anything.
if you should think of it in these terms, like right now, most every team in Missouri and Illinois is practicing across the country,
Mm-hmm.
is practicing, throughout the week. They're doing some, normal practices, whether it be, some 7-on-7, they're doing teamwork, they're doing skill work, they're doing all those things. And you should be really focusing, and then you're doing some 7-on-7 or team camps. So they're doing, a wide variety of team activities, playing football, 11-man football. So, when you're spending time away from your team, running more one-on-ones or running more, doing more of that is not necessarily, in my mind, the most productive thing you can do with your time. You should be refining your skills and then going back to your team with the skills you've been working on. That's how you get improvement. And you go, well, I'm going to run a route. That's skills. No, that is not the finer details. I mean, one of my college quarterbacks, this past week, I've been communicating with him, and talking to him about a couple things that I saw in some video that he sent me, and someone's in the background filming him and telling him, "Oh, good job," and good job and good throw and all, like the customary stuff. But the problem is, if you listen to those videos, you hear people placating and saying, "Oh, well, great, oh, good, oh, yeah," they're making all these noises, but there's not constructive feedback. So, like in the instance of this quarterback, I was telling him, like, look, who is that telling you good throws? Because they're clearly not watching your feet. Like, you're a supreme athlete, so of course you're going to get the ball where it's supposed to go. But the matter of the point is, there's an efficient way to get the ball there. There's an inefficient way to get the ball there. And so, when you're training, that is the mode. Is you're trying to drill out the stuff that does not need to be there. Build out, what you need to what it looks like perfectly, and then kill any redundancies that are in the mechanic. And that could be pass setting, that could be route running, could be jam techniques. It could be a variety of things. But when you get into the rehearsal phase, like where we're out there and you're competing with one another, like you have to do so much work from a training perspective to be able to get out there and do it. So, if you think of it in phases, there's a skill acquisition period. There's a rehearsal where, like in tackle football, 11-man football, you're working on where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there, how it syncs with the play. And then lastly, you work on the competition phase. Well, when you start to do one-on-ones constantly, the habits become trying to beat that guy. But let's be truthful. In high school football, how many times do you see a man, just man to man, you're no safety, no anything. It's just you versus a guy and a quarterback with 5 seconds. It doesn't happen. Usually you got 2.5 to 3 seconds, and there's a safety sitting over the top of it. So, a lot of these routes you're seeing are not really conducive, and you're not going to see that in college. So, people just got to wake up and start to think like, okay, I want to do this. If you're just doing it for fun, then ignore what we're talking about. If you're doing it for fun, go have fun. Go play with your friends.
How do you feel about somebody like showing themselves running routes with no coverage?
Depends on,
You're just out there. You're just having fun when you're doing that.
Yeah, you're.
That's
I
like
mean,
nobody's
there's
going to look at that and be like, "Oh,
that guy's
yeah,
great.
that
I
guy's
mean,
great." I took my small daughters out there to have them
yeah.
run routes.
Well, because you have
for
no
fun.
context,
Right,
right? Like,
right.
and let's be truthful.
That's
That,
fun.
like, okay, if you're a big, long receiver that has good hands, like they can, you can show yourself running routes like early in the off season when there's nothing going on. Well, now we're in football mode. You should have a lot of film from 7-on-7. You should have a lot
Yes.
of film from team camps. And if you have that stuff, what's going to happen is you can then put that stuff out on your profile, and
Correct.
and that goes a lot longer than a backyard football session.
Yes,
And so
that's what you want to do.
and I'll tell you, like when we train our college and pro guys, like over the years, like we only like those dudes do not do one-on-ones with guys on the field. Like that's a high school thing. Yeah, you might see lower level college guys that want to do that, but by and large, a lot of it's just keeping yourself safe in the off season and refining your skills to the point where you feel really good going into camp and you feel where you need to be. You need to be where you're at and be ready to do what's coming, what's required of you. So I just, it's part of the day and age of what we live in. People are trying to get videos. It's a 7-on-7, type of mentality of like, hey, I'm gonna, jump over the top of someone and then mess with them once I, and celebrate on them once I catch it, and hopefully my friend's filming me. And and again, competing is awesome, getting out there, but you also be careful, doing that this close to the season.
Right.
Fast whistle stuff. If you're doing one-on-ones, all that stuff, the closer we get to the season, the more, stuff can happen, but you need to be prepared to, try and keep guys as healthy as possible.
Right. And the bottom line is you want to figure out what college coaches want to see as opposed to just putting something out there for looks or for, whatever. Figure out what they want, what's going to help you versus just putting stuff out there. And that goes for lifts as well. And I see too many guys want to put lifts out there, and they're bad lifts. You have bad form, and they'll still put it out there anyway. And, and I don't know what to do sometimes because I'm sure, and you get the same thing. They'll tag you, and I don't want to say, sometimes I'll be like, hey, you need to like take that down.
Yeah.
But
and you're just I watched a video the other day where a guy was critiquing kids that were doing power cleans.
Right.
And because kids will put these up there, and this guy's like a professional powerlifting guy and instructor, and he was just he's critiquing and somewhat making fun of these kids, and the tough thing is that the kids are doing the best they can,
right?
But like to his point, and who knows where these videos, they weren't from our area, they were from Lord knows where. But he's like, there's coaches standing in the background, like clapping for this, and he's like, this is not like. More than anything, it's going to get someone get hurt. I mean, I'll tell you, when I was in high school, power cleaning became kind of an in vogue thing, right? So we had a coach who thought it was a great idea to see who could do the most power cleans in a minute.
Yeah,
that's not a lift you want to do for repetitions in a time deal competing with high school kids, right? I mean, kids were just getting blasted in the shins and getting, smacking themselves in the chest. Straining their backs. I mean, things like that really, you look back on it and it's kind of funny because like guys were just, competing and doing the best they could.
That's something you do with your buddies.
Yeah. Like getting hurt, like, just like a prank show or something. But like, there's certain things you want to do, but that coach back then obviously was trying something new, did not have the wherewithal to understand what we were actually doing and why we were doing it. And probably was, something, if he rethought it, he probably stopped doing it years after, I would assume. But
you don't want to be on there and like critiquing kids in public and try to humiliate them or anything like that. And that's why it's like, it's okay to send them a DM and be like, hey, this isn't you, and you put, in the best light.
I've done that numerous times where I've told parents like, hey, if you're gonna run a 40 on a to send out and put on your profile, do it on a field.
Yep.
Right. Do it on turf. Do it on grass. Don't do it on a track. Don't do it in a gym. If you're gonna lift weights, make sure your form looks appropriate. Right. It's one thing to rock up 315 pounds. It's another thing to squeeze it up there versus control it up there or explode it up there. And again, I don't know that, to be honest with you, like back in the day, like big lift totals were a big thing to colleges.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, like that's not, that's not really what they're looking for. They want to know what your movement looks like, right? And they want to know what your speed looks like and your explosiveness and how far you can broad jump, how far you can string 3 broad jumps together. All those things are really important. And so let me tell you, people measure and have an idea real quick. I was watching something the other day, and then I was talking to some coaches, and if you look at, like, if you just wanted to take it, we talked about this after the Lindenwood camp, but if you want to take a test, if I had one test that you could say, hey, okay, you can't do you can do the 40, the broad jump, pro agility, or vertical leap. And you said you can only do one, and then you need to stack rank the athletes, it would be broad jump for me.
Yeah.
Because it is very easy to see if you have a group of, say 30 kids, you have them broad jump, you will real quickly see, like, say they're in 8th grade, 9th grade, the top end of that range is going to be around 8.5 to 9 feet, right? If they're in 9th grade. If they're in 8th, probably closer, like high 7'11", somewhere in that range, 8 foot, low 8s. The vast majority of the other kids will be in the 5 and 6 foot range. Okay, so you can see your outliers start to, like, they start clearing 7 in 8th grade, or they start clearing 8 when they're in 9th grade, and then by the time they're juniors and seniors, the guys that are clearing, you and I know, they clear 10 foot. It starts to really, like, you go, oh, okay.
It really separates the athletes.
Yeah.
The broad jump. I mean, you really can tell who's who, and with the explosion, the power, and you can get that in your vertical and figure out who's fast. Even if a guy doesn't run a very fast 40, that's technique. If you're broad jumping 10 feet and doing a 35-inch vertical or better, and you're not running a low 40 time, that's technique.
That's it, 100%. And you can, and so, like, we're starting to do more flying 10s.
Mm-hmm.
So you just do like a calculation on miles per hour, so you can see, because that alleviates a crap start, right? If someone has a really bad start, then that technique phase of the run, you can start to then really figure out, because it's pretty easy to see, right? And so we did with a team the other day. We did their force plate jumps, we did their flying 10s, and we did broad jump. In that, the kids are the top 5%, or the top 5% of all 3 of those categories. They might not be the fastest, but their jumps towards the top, right?
Yeah.
But then they do the force plate, and you see their it's predictive of it. And so, like, the one metric, what you're looking for with young athletes, like, as you and I are, like, you want to identify who the studs are, or they're going to be,
right?
You start to look for high output power.
Yep.
So if they have an output of power that is, a standard deviation away from the norm, like it's one standard deviation, up or down. If it's down, obviously there's work to be done. But if it's up, you start to then find, like, hey, those are outliers, because then you can simply say, okay, with a normal weightlifting program, strength program that, goes after and teaches them how to do all these things, and helps build their body up, if they still maintain that level of explosiveness, they are going to put themselves in a different league, right? And then that's how, unfortunately, for some kids, they get weeded out, just because some of the people don't have what the others have, right? So they might not have the same density of type 2 muscle fiber, right? So there are natural barriers, right, which you can work through, the vast majority of them.
Yes.
If you do, if you apply yourself, you certainly can, because you and I know I've seen plenty of kids that can test extremely well that cannot get out of their own way on the football field.
Correct.
Right. Or
that drives you crazy.
This is another fun one, you can get be as fast as you want, but if you don't know where you're going and you don't know the technique to get there, then you're only going to get out of position faster, right? So like there's a give and take between the skill side of things, right? And the goal of skill development training, and not just going to run more routes or go do more pass sets or more, cone drills or ladder drills. The goal is for your brain to move faster, right? And on the field. So that comes from film study, that comes from a lot of different things that you can do, but a lot of it comes from application of where your feet are and where your eyes are. And if your feet and your eyes are good, your brain can then process the information. You can then, make the right decisions and then move through the process and then do it over and over and over again. So, so much though of what we see on a daily basis of how kids, because you could be a great athlete, but if you're like a mental midget, like if you have anger issues and you have all these
Can you
things,
still use that term?
I don't know. Well, yeah, you know what? We have kids that come in from Freeburg, and that's their
name.
That is
the
their.
mental.
They're the midgets.
It's the midgets.
They are the.
Gotcha.
That's their team.
I'm like, wow, that's a wild name.
Yeah, they are still. They're still the midgets.
At least in Freeburg,
Illinois.
Yeah,
and you know what? They got some really good, great talent.
They really
every
do.
year they got a couple kids that are just really good. So
it's amazing that whole area there.
Yeah, it really does. Red Bud, the whole kind of through that region. So, but yeah, I think at the end of the day, if a kid cannot get out of his own way, unfortunately, it doesn't matter how athletic they are. Right. And if a kid makes bad decisions off the field and he's a really good athlete, eventually he's going to flush himself. He's going to be done. So, but yeah, I think as you and I start to evaluate and start to figure out who's who and kids that you want to really help through the process, there's certain signature attributes that we see. And that's one is just being a good person who does what they say they're going to do. Right. And works. There's nothing that makes you or I more happy when we're talking to someone is seeing that they actually work. Like putting up stuff online, like that's great.
Right.
But if you're actually doing work with your coaches and you're doing extra work, with people that know what they're doing, and you're doing stuff on your own away from those guys, you're practicing what you're doing. I mean, like I can tell you, the kids that practice away from me that I train, I can tell.
Oh, yeah.
If they've done nothing from the last session, I can tell.
Yeah.
It's the warm-up is very easy, right? It's very easy to see what that looks like. So, but yeah, if you're doing extra work away from your training or your practices, make sure it's the right work, but also make sure that it's stuff that you're going to be able to apply. And it's what you said earlier. What do college coaches want to see and what is going to help you execute your position and your duty on your team?
And really what they want to see a lot of is that you are training, that you are getting some kind of good training. And I highly recommend guys film that. I know that there's a quarterback that comes and trains with you guys who, he has a high level D1 quarterback in front of him. And so he's kind of up against it, getting film wise. And so I said, I'm like, you need to film every training session. Because that's gonna be your
film.
That's your film. And college coaches, while it might not be ideal because it's not game film, hey, they love that stuff too.
Yes,
because not only that it breaks down your technique, it breaks down the skills that you learn, the skills that you're capable of, but it also shows that you're a worker and that you're putting in that not just the effort, but you're doing what needs to be done, and you can show yourself getting better.
Yeah, I had a college coach hit me up this week. One of our coaches had been one of our quarterbacks had been at a camp with them, and I thought it was really interesting. He just hit me up out of the clear blue. I'm not going to divulge names or whatever, but he just said, hey, so and so had a great camp. He got to see him. He's like he has got a smooth release and he is very coachable. Those two things, when you start hearing someone say that, like that, those are good things, right? Those are signs that kid is on their radar now. And then he starts talking about things that he can do just like within anticipation and things like that he can work on, right? Those are things that you can do. And then he said that these are things that he's going to be able to grow into, right?
That's
so
good
then you
feedback,
start to think like it is really good feedback. And he's talking about as his body changes, things are going to work. But his biomechanics are so smooth, it's easy to start to predict that he's going to be a guy, right?
And if he wasn't on their radar, he wouldn't send you anything.
Yeah, and
you heard nothing.
So this is interesting. The last thing he says, it's amazing how great you guys have done with him in terms of his release time. Astonished at how quick his live reps on short and intermediate throws are, even for a long levered guy. So coaches, that's insight. These are what these guys are saying, right? These are the feedback. This is the thing. And the funny thing is, what he's talking about, his quick release and how he's doing it, you understand that was done over the last 3 years. That wasn't like something he did as a tune-up to go to that camp. I didn't even know he was at the camp.
Right.
I just got a text from the coach, right, who then put 2 and 2 together. So people see things, when the moment's right. If they would have saw him 3 years ago when he wasn't ready, he still could throw a football. He wasn't at that level. Now you have college coaches looking at that arm saying, wow. And then it's honestly how quick his release is. So what he's saying when he's talking about quick release, he's saying that could translate at my level.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy's, this coach played, numerous years in the NFL. This is not like a guy that's like a guy that like, just new to the game. He knows what he's looking at.
And he spoke about his feet as well.
Yeah, right.
So explain that as far as like your feet and your quick release.
Oh, feet are everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing is like, for instance, when you hear someone, if you watch quarterback coaches, a lot of guys, like they're very focused on like the like what the ball looks like in the air. I would say that, one of the things that we've learned over the years in our group with all of our quarterback coaches is we really could care less about that. It's more of a function of what the feet look like because we know that will predict what the ball is going to do. So, think of your feet, when you're moving, whether you're running, jumping, whatever it might be, walking, wherever your feet are pointing is typically where the your center of mass and your body is going. So when you throw, the feet are basically a mirror image of each other. So like if your right foot is off, like so you're on a 3-step drop, you drop and your right foot strikes the ground and you come under control and start to redirect your force to the target. If your right foot is off or inside or you're in the ball of your foot, well, your left foot is now going to strike the ground incorrectly, right? Then which leads to the ball kind of getting caught in the middle of like a couple different movements that are not real good. So we really focus on just making sure that the feet are in the ground so that you can make a high level throw consistently, right? Look, if you're a really good athlete and your feet are off, you will potentially you can still make a good throw, but it's kind of a guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like it's not repeatable over and over and over and over again. It is really focused on how good you and how lucky you kind of get, right? It's like, where your eyes are. All those things really predict where the ball is going to go. So, but I can tell you, if you're right-handed, if your right foot strikes the ground correctly, it is near certainty your left foot will strike the ground. So like we do like a little drill where like if you step out on your toe, your next step, whether you think about it or not, you're going to step on your toe. Your other foot's going to step on its toe because they mirror each other. It's a counterbalance relationship. So if you strike on the ground on the heel, your other foot's going to strike on the heel, which we don't want to do because it locks your leg out and a whole host of reasons. But if you strike full foot to the ground, your left foot will get in the ground and then you can drive. And so, it's counterintuitive. But so many people think like the back foot pushes, the ball forward in the throw, and it couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, we measure. We have devices that can measure force. We have devices that measure angles. It is all about your left leg extending when your right elbow is extending, or the correlation and the relationship between the two. So that's where all the force is generated. Yeah. So the human body is really good at sending things in straight lines because think about how we're built. You squat down, you stand up, pretty easy movement for the body to do. You start getting your feet outside your hips. Yeah. Man, oh man, we become
especially as you get older,
we become very inefficient. So
right.
That's it. And so you work on those things. And the young man that this guy's talking about, his feet are really, really good. Yep. Like they're very quiet.
That's what I look for.
They're very silent feet. Like there's not a lot of extra stuff. The release point really is irrelevant if your feet are good because your brain will figure it out. Now, if you can't throw a football and your feet are good, you're probably still not going to throw a football. But there's certain people who have the propensity to throw a football, and then
Yeah.
those are the guys you train.
All arm quarterbacks, right? You can get by with that in high school for so long, right?
Yes.
Just using your arm.
Tons of them.
And you can have some success with that. But if you want to move to the higher level, you got to work on the whole thing, and including the feet. And I always notice with the guys you train, like a guy who's up and coming, Brett Ottensmeyer.
Yes.
His feet are so good, right? And people are starting to notice him. Colleges are noticing him. Other people who follow football are starting. But man, his technique and his footwork, especially.
So I can't let the cat too far out of the bag, but we're working on a project right now on some just some throwing mechanic stuff. So like artificial intelligence type stuff. Pretty cool. So we had a throwing session the other night, and Carter Davis from Lindenwood was there.
Formerly at Eureka.
Yep, Eureka. And then Brett Ottensmeyer was there as well, and they were throwing. So it basically nothing fancy. They were just getting filmed by 4 cameras, surrounding them. And
robot.
Yeah, well, eventually they will be.
Yeah.
So, but he was threw fine. Poor guy had like a Band-Aid on his finger for the first few, and that's very unnerving when you're throwing and you got something on your fingers that you're not used to having. So first couple were a little shaky, and then he just starts ripping it. So then the next day, Carter Davis and I were talking, and he just said, "Man, Brett Ottensmeyer can flat rip the ball." He's like, it's fun to watch. And so that's coming from a Division I college quarterback.
Right.
And, quarterback, that's the cool thing about training with other quarterbacks is it's not like that you're not in competition with. You're there, and iron sharpens iron, right? So, but like that younger, older relationship too, I think there's a lot of value for those guys. Same thing with the linemen, those younger linemen looking up to the older linemen. And then, 3 years from now, all of a sudden they're the older linemen throwing guys around. So it's just a process. And so, but
I really like that at not to interrupt you, but I really like that what I see at Elite is you see the guys rooting and trying to help the other players. It's not just I'm here for me. They all are friendly with each other. They all try to help and root and help coach along, help coach these guys up.
And what I think is the most fascinating, and I thought of for years, is we'll have kids from really a 3 to 4 hour radius, but all walks of life, all backgrounds, all different levels of height of school,
and they care about
different levels
guys,
of recruitment, and they do. And so, but you would have loved it the other day. It was Coach Ray had a private session going with Dayton Hopkins.
Okay,
and then Landon Pace.
Yeah.
Sebastian Tate from SLU.
Yeah,
man, studs, and they videoed some of it, and I was I wasn't there when it happened, but got to hear some of the instruction and just the passion and just watching those guys. And I think Landon Pace, obviously he can be a tight end. I mean, he's gotten offers to be a tight end, but I think this stepping into defensive end territory for him with his body and how he moves. Who knows? I mean, he could be a guy that turns around and is that's what becomes his primary position.
And that's going to be interesting in college. I mean, obviously, Dayton wanted to play tight end. Mizzou, he's going to be a defensive end. You want to do certain things. Landon's the same way. And Landon has a lot of D1 college offers. Landon sees himself as a tight end. And hopefully, when he gets to college, they'll find out where he's really going to be. But I love him as a defensive end, and I know
he's got all the tools.
Run across a lot of guys. I mean, even Sheldon Richardson wanted to catch the ball, right? He
wanted to kick off too.
He wanted to do it all, And he actually had a pretty good leg.
He
could boot the ball. And Sebastian Tate, another guy, up and comer, young. I think is he going to be a junior or a sophomore? I think he's going to be a junior.
Yeah, junior,
2026 kid.
So
I bet that had to be something
really cool. Yeah, I actually thought of you when they were going through the film in my office, and I heard it. So I was like, JP would have liked to have been here.
Yeah, I didn't get that call from Coach Ray.
Well, neither did I. It just happened while I wasn't there. So, but hey, something I wanted to bring up because I know we've touched on this, but I think again, I kind of want to beat this drum because you hear it and then it goes away. You hear it, and then it goes away. I told you a couple weeks ago when we were at the Manning Academy, I was talking with Charles Davis about just what's going on in the state of college football. And one of the things was, it wasn't like it's like no one knows exactly, but everybody can feel it coming. And the term he used was there's a seismic shift coming. I don't know that he was saying that from firsthand knowledge. I think that you just get the feeling that something is coming. So you're starting to hear the rattling, the saber rattling of the SEC and the Big Ten of like, hey, we're not accepting any new teams, because they're starting to like circle the wagons with what they have, so they can build their power position for whatever comes next, right? So, and they're doing their media days, and I do think it is interesting that the SEC still has a bone of contention with the state of Missouri's NIL laws, which I think,
which has really helped them with recruiting.
And the reason why they have a problem with it is it has helped Mizzou with their recruiting, and what's going on right now in state and even out of state. It's really, really proactive, and it's forward thinking, because our leaders, your political leaders, got together and didn't fight each other on it, and made the best decision for the university, which I think will probably play extremely well into this new model that's coming, right? So they're just ahead of the curve, and so. But I did hear the Illinois AD was asked point blank, what are you guys thinking as far as like canceling sports, right? And he alluded to the fact, he said, just like with back in the day during the COVID, nothing was off the table. Like nothing's off the table. Like we have to survive. And so he did make a comment about, which is interesting, about the $22 million that will be paid out to the student athletes. That is going to be the lion's share will be going to football and men's and women's basketball. And then he said, barring, any Title IX considerations. So as it stands now, I think what they're doing, they're thinking, hey, this money is going to get pulled away. And the comment was made that, hey, when you have 1/5 of your budget line is taken away, which is now going to the athletes, that's essentially how they paid for those other sports. So now they're having to use that money to pay for, the athletes, and it's going to be really interesting to see. And I know that there was a lawsuit that was thrown out last week where the NCAA was trying to block it. I guess they allowed it to continue, but it was their complaint was thrown out. But it's a labor law issue, and so now you start to read more about that. And I guess they filed this suit under some Fair Labor Act. And JP, it is a nightmare for the NCAA. They're talking about paying back wages and paying overtime. And so think of it in these terms.
Wow.
Okay. And so I just start going through, like, just kind of quickly thinking, okay, so they have X number of hours a week. They know exactly how many hours those kids were there because it's all mandated by the NCAA. So they know, they keep logs in compliance of how, who was there and how long they were there, right? Then take a game day as an example. They show up at 9 a.m. and they're there till, I don't know, 7, depending on the game, right? Say it's a 13-hour day.
Yep.
Well, that's a problem, right? I mean, that is a huge problem, because now if they can go back retroactively and get these guys on wages that should have been paid, not NIL wages,
right?
Wages like paid, like I don't know. So the more we talk about this stuff, the more murky it gets, and the more sad, because you can kind of see the writing on the wall. I mean, some of these other sports are going to get absolutely nailed.
Well, it's going to be sad for them. It's also going to be sad for the diehard traditional fans, right? We said when we first started this broadcast, and it upset some people. It's what you're going to get is professional football, right? Oh, yeah. College football is going to be pro football. It's turning into pro football now. It's in the thing. So I don't know if like some seismic shift is going to happen. We're in the middle of it. It's already in the early
shift
process.
Is taking place.
It's taking place, right? People just don't realize it. Just like you don't realize how time passes you somebody. You look at a clock, you're like, oh my God, I didn't realize it's going on right now. And it's eventually I just see it, and maybe you do, I see it kind of just breaking away and being its own separate entity.
Yeah, I think the
almost
way,
like the NFL, where you have divisions, just certain divisions, certain conferences, and that's it.
And there's going to be people who get left out.
There are going to be.
And so So I think, I could be wrong, but you're going to see the professional side of college football and you're going to see the amateur side. That doesn't mean they still can't get name, image, and likeness on the amateur side, but you're going to see professional. That's the big four, if you will, the power four. And then on the flip side, the NCAA will be running the tournament-based sports. So, College World Series, March Madness.
Yep.
I don't know how basketball breaks. I don't know much about basketball, but all those sports where they run, Olympic, all the Olympic sports, swimming, track and field, they can still run that.
Yeah.
But then it's going to be a matter of who's funding those with this new league being broken away. Who's the lion's share of that money? Who's funding that? And I don't understand, all the logistics with it, but I do know that, when you have, a budget of $140 million and now $22 million is off the top to the athletes, and you spend every penny year in and year out with no surplus, that's a problem. And so, I think the NCAA, that's why they can't handle these lawsuits coming at them. They have not, they don't run in excess. They spend what they bring in, and then they know the next amount of money is coming in next year. They just keep, it's like a rolling pile.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what assets they have and how they've invested their money. I have no idea, but one would think this is going to get way worse before it gets better, and things will get figured out eventually.
Yeah. But I see it eventually being, there will be an affiliation with the university, but it's going to be private money. It's going to be corporations, and then you're going to have your college, club sports, right?
Yep.
And I could see the NCAA holding on to them and still having, charge over them. But I think that you're going to see football be a separate entity, and I see college basketball following suit.
Yeah.
I mean, you already have with college basketball in the NCAA tournament, you have the haves and the have-nots. It's Correct. The same teams, and the tournament, and the same teams are always winning anyway. And I mean, money talks, and it's just becoming professional sports.
Yeah, and so the stakes are higher. Obviously, recruiting is going to change. I mean, it's changed a ton already from Mizzou. Right. I mean, you look at some of the kids that they're landing right now, and they're landing because Mizzou's obviously a quality program. They got things going the right direction, but there's also a component where they're paying. I mean, and I'm curious to see what that structure looks like. If you just do like simple math, like you're talking, $100,000 to $150,000 a year to pay those guys if they divvy the $22 million up between basketball and football. That's not a bad salary for 4 years, right? I mean, but then what I've also heard is that, when you have this contract system where they can start to actually pay you like an actual, so people are not going to be bouncing around. Transfer portal is not going to be nearly as volatile as it is today, because, now they're leaving for NIL money, right? They can still do that. But if you have a contract that's like your base salary, if you will, it's going to be a little bit tougher. So then, are high school kids going to be, or is it just statutory rates that everybody gets paid across the country, or are different schools going to pay different amounts? I mean, I don't know how it works, but I do foresee high school kids having agents to help negotiate what they're going to get, right?
Oh, without question. So, without question. And it's all going to keep trickling down to the high school level. And then, you'll see what that, that's going to look like, because I see high school kids already now who have deals with various people, to promote certain things in that. And so, I mean, it all just runs down.
Yes. Yeah. Well, anytime there's a big money involved, it certainly, it draws in a lot of different elements, right?
You have some high school kids who want big money now.
Well, yeah,
they don't want to wait.
Well, why would? Yeah, I mean, if you're seeing guys getting paid $1 million, I mean, you know how many watches that can buy you, JP, and how many cars you can get. I mean, the crazy thing is, like, these kids don't realize it's like winning the lottery at like a young age, which is like not very not heard of, right? Very, very difficult. You get that money if you can invest it. I mean, you're set. If you have delayed gratification, you can be set up for the rest of your life. But I unfortunately, at that age, impulse control is very difficult with younger younger males.
No, I like the way it is now that they're working towards that. Because it'd be great once they reach that age. You're 18, 19, and then you can start earning that kind of money.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that. But there are guys coming.
Oh, you're talking about high school.
I'm talking about high school kids.
Yeah.
I'm talking about guys who are in 8th grade who people are like, oh, that's the next guy.
Oh my
You
God.
wanting to do deals.
Well, yeah, like I get like the social media side of things. Like if a
Mhm.
kid's got like a bunch of people that follow him, or a girl's got an influencer, hey, that's a totally different play.
Right.
But yeah, like from an NIL perspective, oh my God, like I mean,
That'd be a nightmare.
You know how many kids you could miss on? Like literally, like I think back on the number of kids that were like the middle school hero. Everybody's like, that dude's surefire going to the league. And by the time he's a sophomore, you're like, whatever happened to that guy?
Happens all the time.
So again,
and the recruiting fan sites do that. You see that happen all the time. They fall by the wayside pretty quick once the offers don't keep coming in. How people, there are offers and then there are offers.
Yes.
And if they get a couple offers, that's how ranking systems are usually based. And so if they get a couple offers, then all of a sudden there'll be a 3-star, 4-star, whatever. And then once those dry up, as the years keep going, by junior, senior year, they don't have those offers anymore. Then they fall by the wayside. They're not ranked high.
And they don't care about football as much and whatever. No. And hey, and some of that, unfortunately, some of those kids don't even ask for that, and they get it, and you feel bad for them because it is really a lot of pressure. But if you don't have those core, values of work and good people around you, pushing you, but if you also don't have it internally, like we're it's a problem. Like I want to see guys that love the game of football or whatever sport they're playing. They get to go out and work out on their own. They don't have to be told to go do it. And that could be working on just the mental side of it. That could be working on read training. That could be working on just working through your hand fighting techniques, whatever it might be.
That's why I love this time of year and why I like to get out and about and see so much stuff, because you really see who's been working and who's been doing it and who's elevated their game and who's elevated themselves physically and skill wise and stuff. And I'm telling you what, man, it is going to be a fun season. 2024 high school football season, college football too. High school though is going to be insanely good.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I cannot believe how fast it's going to be here. I mean,
it is.
We're going to be, fast forward about a month and a half. We're going to be talking to each other about how hot the first game's going to be.
Yep.
How people are making arrangements to change game times and all that. And
you're seeing some of that.
Yeah, it's just crazy. But somebody's going to ask you, like, it feels like to me, and it could just be the time of year. Mm-hmm. It feels like there's more high schools doing 7-on-7s and more high schools doing team practices or team
joint
camps.
Practices. Yeah,
it seems like there's a lot of trending towards the competition phase of the off season, and not as much in the training development phase, like meaning like team synchronization rehearsal phase. Yeah, it just seems like, because every time I talk to a kid, they're like, "Oh yeah, we got a team camp for
got a lineman challenge.
Yeah, we got there's all lineman different things going on." Yeah. So I do feel like that's kind of a shift, and I don't know if that's because there's more teams doing spring ball, so they feel like they can roll right into it. Maybe I don't know. But I definitely noticed the trend. This summer for sure.
Oh, you're not wrong. I mean, for a guy like me, I love that's going on. But yeah, it definitely is. And the way that the high school coaches look at it is it's helping them get better. It's helping their team and their players get better. And so, there are two different, trains of thought on it.
Yeah. But there are some teams that don't do a lot of it, right? They're definitely are more reclusive. They're doing all their stuff in house, and like an NFL team that every once in a while does a joint practice, but in the NFL they end up fighting, right? Usually in those, it's always good for TV when the
haven't really seen that yet.
Yeah, you don't. So high school, you're not. I mean, maybe a push or a shove, but nothing like.
Yeah, but even this, there's some serious competition though. Like when they do the lineman challenges and stuff like that, and joint practice, it gets pretty heated,
competitive, right? Which is
even like this month you got a bunch of that going on, and it like goes almost right up to the dead week.
Yeah.
To where, and then so you get a week off, and then you're right back in it. So that's why I say that just continues what I say about it. Football's a year-round sport. I mean, we've really been in football season, and we said it. I mean, yeah, you have your spring stuff, but since the end of May, so you think that since the end of May till December, when the championship goes. I mean,
Yep.
that's a lot of football.
Take December off, take a little break, and
That's
then
it.
we'll be talking, off-season training and combines. Like it's
Yeah.
like, but you have to have phases of how you go through all of it, and not be like, oh, we're in this phase. I mean, you have to have some forward views, like and thinking and strategic, thinking patterns to say, okay, hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Like there is a sequence to it, right?
Yep.
And so, yeah, I really do think a lot of kids really should just enjoy this time. Don't get too high, don't get too low. If you're on a great team, enjoy that. If you're on a team that's not unbelievable, enjoy the fact that you get to play high school football,
Right.
right? Because you and I know once it's over, right? College football is a totally different beast. It's a different beast than even when we were in school. Like, it is completely different, right? Yeah, they're still playing football, but it's just a different beast. And so, enjoy and high school football is different, but it's still the same. I mean, it's still very pure. It's there's
That's
so
why I
many
love it,
unbelievable things, playing high school football and getting to be in your community and getting to,
camaraderie.
yeah, you have hang out with your buddies and play, crosstown rivals. All that stuff is unbelievable, and you don't get to ever do it again. I mean, so enjoy. You get 4 years of it. Don't wish it away. Don't think you're better than the level you're playing at today, because this is where you're playing. And I think that would be the advice I give any high school kid. Like, have fun and enjoy it.
It goes by way too fast. You blink of an eye, you're a middle-aged guy.
Right? You're going to your high school reunion talking about if coach would have put you in.
Right, Uncle Rico. Yeah,
right.
That would have happened. But just think about the guys who are the studs this year, like the Carson boys, the Dylan Duffs. I mean, knowing them when they were little guys, middle schoolers.
Yeah.
And here we are, going to Illinois, going to be going to Kansas State after this year. I mean, it goes by so fast. And think about the guys. I dropped Sheldon Richardson. I remember Sheldon when he was in 8th grade at camp.
Yeah, crazy.
And some of these guys. What really
they're just now retiring from the NFL.
Yeah. So, and what really shocks you is these guys that I used to cover, in high school with recruiting and whatnot, that are coaching college football. That's really the wake up call. You're like, wow.
Yeah, Deron Neal's coaching at Purdue. I was talking to Coach Patterson about it yesterday.
Yeah,
and really cool. And like in that game, these guys all. And we have one time I'm going to talk about like our coaching tree that's come out of Elite. It is crazy. It is like the number of guys that we've trained and or have coached in our program that are.
Deron's one of those guys.
Coaching at
he was
Division
playing
I level.
Boom just the other day. It seems like
it's unbelievable the number of things that we've done over the years, and the guys have like kind of come in where they're halfway point and they go out, right? But I do think, and we have a bunch of young coaches right now that are focusing on going to the next level, and I think we love the ability to see that happen, and who it benefits downline are young guys that are in the pipeline.
Yep.
It benefits those guys because those guys can help our guys once they're in the college ranks.
Yeah.
Pretty
absolutely.
Simple.
Yeah. No, your guys, and they learn so much, including your boom coaches, right? You got a lot of good young boom football coaches. And so they learn a lot. And when you guys go on the tournaments, if you guys tour a college or whatever,
they're making connections.
Absolutely. The connections, the insight. And I see some of them, at high schools,
Yep.
whether it's shadowing or whether it's getting their, foot in the door with guys. All I'd like to hear that.
It's very, very.
But you want to know what? I'll tell you what, you need to, on the site, you need to have a coaching tree page.
We have some. We haven't added all of them, but yeah.
Just like with the elite combine guys. My God, you need like a whole separate website.
I know.
For those guys who've come to the elite combine and
crazy.
Played college football. Some of them are high school and college coaches now.
I know. It means we're getting old, JP.
Absolutely.
Too old.
Yeah.
Nah, never too old.
Never too old. Never too old. We're youthful.
Yeah.
We're youthful for our ages. But anyway, the show is not youthful anymore. That does it for us this week. 1 week closer to the start of camp season, and lots of other good stuff's going to be coming up that we're going to talk about next week. Appreciate you stopping by and checking us out. As always, you can check everything Football 360 Show at football360show.com. Catch the audio versions on Apple and Spotify, and this will be replayed on X. There we go. Joe, Pro Joe, the awesome producer, putting up all our graphics and everything. You can find us at, including our socials. Do you want to give your socials, the main social that you're on?
Elite Football on X and Elite Football Academy on Instagram.
Yep, JP Rock MO on X, and JP Rock Scout You on Instagram. I need to be on my Instagram more. And then you will attest to that. I'm sure you're going to
be. Yeah.
You're
he
like,
is more of a Twitter guy.
Right. You'd be like, will you contribute, please?
Come on, man.
Come on, man.
Yeah, but no, hey.
I got this reel.
Hey, just be mindful of what you put on the internet
Yes.
and social media. Just be mindful.
Absolutely. Wise words. And until next week, everybody stay safe. Be careful out there. There's a lot of flooding in St. Charles County, Missouri. So take it easy, drive slow, and we will talk to you next week. See ya.